welcome. I hope you're all having a wonderful day today. In tonight's video, I will be discussing another true crime in ASMR style. And I am so excited to talk about today's case. Before I do begin with the video, I do want to say that there is a disclaimer in the description down below. Gabrielle Benora Petito, also known as Gabby Petito, was born in March 1999. She had a very close bond with her family, and family had meant everything to her. She was known to be a very sweet, caring, talented, beautiful, and had such an adventurous spirit to her. Her dream was to become a full-time traveler because she had such a true appreciation and love for nature that she wanted to see the beauty of it, which is so sweet to hear. In high school, she had met a man named Brian Laundrie, and there's a photo of him. I'm sure most of you know who he is, and he is very well known right now. So they had met in high school, and they didn't start dating right away. They kind of just hanged out with the same group of friends. And Gabby and Brian both graduated in the year of 2017. Brian had become an environmentalist and a minimalist. In the year of 2019 of March, the pair began dating, and it seemed that they got along very well. The date went well, and they just were both excited to explore the world together and have that in common. So as the relationship grew, they began taking a lot of trips, short or big. And in the year of 2020, Gabby wanted to start her journey becoming a full-time traveler and make a living out of it. So she began her YouTube and blog channel, which was named The Nomadic Static. July 2nd, 2020, Brian had proposed to Gabby, and both families were extremely happy and were very thrilled to hear this. Brian's family even let Gabby and Brian live in their home in Northport, Florida. And at the time, Gabby was enjoying exploring this area. She saw a lot of green, a lot of hiking trails, and just nature itself, so it was definitely entertaining for her. However, both were still committed to do their on-road life for a bit. They began prepping to take the next big cross-country trip in 2020. But of course, due to 2020, we all know that COVID came and things got delayed. So at the time, Gabby was working as a nutritionist, but as soon as things reopened and it was okay to travel, she quit her job on the spot and began her trip with Brian. In March of 2021, they celebrated Gabby's 22nd birthday by hiking the Alpine Trail. The following month, her father and stepmom wanted to be closer to Gabby, so they moved to Florida from New York. Gabby was very happy to hear this and was also thrilled to come home to have her family there and excited for her new life with Brian. Before beginning their trip, they stopped in New York June 17, right before her brother's graduation. So the real road trip began on July 2nd. It was going to be a 4-month trip, traveling to a whole bunch of national parks all over Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, and then their final stop would be the day of Halloween at a friend's house in Portland. Gabby had promised her parents she would keep in touch as much as she could, but being on the road, you can lose service and you cannot have any contact with some people for days or weeks. So they were aware of that. Now, in this portion of the video, I will be explaining her timeline and the events leading to Gabby's disappearance. And this will mostly be explained through pictures. So before we begin with the timeline, I want to say that Gabby did purchase a white Ford van, and this was going to be their main source of travel and home. Gabby and Brian had suffered from anxiety, and Gabby also had OCD. By this, we can definitely tell that some things were triggered as the relationship was very tightly compacted in a small van, and things can trigger people, and we should definitely take this into account when I get into further of the body cam footage of Gabby and Brian's. It was also noted that in each of Gabby's posts, she posted a geotag. And we can see that through numerous pictures that she always posted her geotag in the caption. And it was a way for her to keep in contact with her family and to let others know where she was going to be. And if she was going to be during that time period as well. So it was definitely a great way of her communicating with others. So she maintained in regular contact with her family members during her travels. However, that communication abruptly stopped around the end of August. August 12th, in Moba, Utah, police had an encounter with the couple where officers described them as having engaged in some sort of altercation. Although the two are described as getting into a physical fight following an argument, both the male and female report that they are in love and engaged to be married, and desperately didn't wish to see anyone charged with a crime. A report that was made from an officer by the name of Eric Pratt. Now, in this body cam, we see that Gabby looks very distressed, just very overwhelmed and anxious, and it's very heartbreaking to know that these were her last few moments and how she was feeling. So, and possibly even throughout the whole trip or the whole relationship with Brian. I'm only going to be showing a couple clips from the video as it is quite long and it is very heartbreaking. But if you do wish to see the whole video, I will link it down in the description.
Quit my job.
Okay.
I was a nutritionist. That's my job.
Cool.
And I just quit my job to travel across the country. And I'm trying to start a blog. I just have a blog and stuff. So I've been building my website. So I've just been really stressed and he doesn't really believe that I could do any of it. So that's kind of been like I don't know, he's like down there. I don't know, we've just been fighting all morning and he wouldn't let me in the car before. And then
Why wouldn't he let you in the car? Because of
told me
your OCD?
He told me I needed to calm down. Yeah.
And take a seat. Watch your feet.
I didn't get overtly physical. I was just trying to keep her away and not get hit. And then I got really loud, and like that's probably drew everyone's attention where I was going, back up, get away, just give me a.
Okay, so you said you pushed her to create some distance, obviously, right? What happened after that? What got the scratches on your eye?
The phone.
The phone. So you pushed her and she hit you?
She was. It wasn't like a push, and she jumped on me. She was.
Did he hit you? No, don't worry. Be honest. You slapped your face or what? Yeah.
So after the solution is somewhat solved and according to the report, Gabby is supposedly the aggression because she doesn't have so much proof as
While you're driving?
Brian does.
While he was driving, you were hitting
You
him?
could clearly see that Gabby is very confused and emotional and scared, and who wouldn't be? The reporter said that after evaluating the totality of circumstances, I do not believe the situation escalated to the level of a domestic assault as much as that of a mental health crisis. This report was made by Daniel Robbins, and to this day, this is very controversial. Like I said, it is clear that Gabby is the one having much more of an anxiety attack and distress. This is very sad. In a 991 audio recording from that day provided by the Grand County Sheriff's Office, a caller tells dispatch he wanted to report a domestic dispute and described a white van with a Florida license plate. The caller said as they were driving by, the gentleman was slapping the girl. Then we stopped, the caller added. They ran up and down the sidewalk. He proceeded to hit her, hopped in the car, and they drove off. Now, in the video, we also see that Brian says he does not have any communication or any phone to contact others, but Gabby does, which worries him of being separated from Gabby. However, a few minutes after this, he pulls out a phone, and many people assume that this is Gabby's phone, as it does seem that he seems to be more in control. And the police officers just kind of don't question it, which is very weird. Like, why wouldn't you question that? That's like, it just seems very weird. And it is also noted in the report that both couples, Gabby and Brian, are separated for the night. Gabby takes the van, and Brian is going to entail for domestic abuse, which is very frustrating. A couple of days later, August 17, Laundrie flew to Tampa, Florida from Salt Lake City, according to his family. He flew home to obtain some items and empty and close the storage unit to save money as they contemplated extending the road trip. On August 23rd, Laundrie returned to Salt Lake to rejoin Petito, and the attorney added, saying, "To my knowledge, Brian and Gabby paid for the flights as they were sharing expenses." Now this is very important because right now at the moment it has been updated that Brian had used Gabby's credit card. After a few days she had gone missing. On August 27, a couple vacationing in Jackson, Wyoming, said they saw Gabby and Brian involved in a commotion as they were leaving the Mary Piglet's Tex-Mex restaurant. This location is now officially confirmed that Gabby was there. This was also her last scene where people had last seen Gabby. Nina Angelo, who was at the restaurant with her boyfriend, said Petito was in tears and Brian was visibly angry, going in and out of the restaurant several times and showing anger towards the staff around the hostess stand. A restaurant manager told CNN she saw an incident at the restaurant, but declined to give her name or describe what happened, and said that the restaurant did not have any surveillance video of the incident. I hope that happens when they have the videos just supposedly gone. Last week of August, Petito's family told police that they were last in contact with her during the last week of August. Northport police say before the last communication, Petito is believed to have been in Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. In a news conference in September, Petito family attorney Richard Stanford says the family's last communication with Petito was August 30th. Now, also, Gabby's post also seem not to have any geotag, and the photos just seem a little off. They don't seem her posting of the trip. It just seems kind of random, and her last initial post, which with the caption of Happy Halloween, is very disturbing as their trip was going to end in Halloween, which was the plan. But so people have a lot of conspiracies that Gabby did not make these posts, nor was her last message to her family sent by her. And we'll kind of get into more of that, why the timeline doesn't add up, and later on in the video. So the family's last communication with Petito was on August 30th, but they do not believe the message they received was from her. Stanford shares a timeline of the events on September 17 as the family knows it. On August 24th, Petito FaceTimes with her mother and tells her she is leaving Utah and heading to the Teton Range in Wyoming. On August 25th, there are multiple texts between Petito and her mother. The young woman's family believes she is in the Teton on this date. On August 27, there were more texts between Petito and her family, during which her family believes she remains in the Tetons. On August 30th, her family receives the last text from Petito. They doubt she wrote that text. According to the Stafford, the message read, "No service in Yosemite." Also, in September, a woman publicly claimed she and her boyfriend gave Brian a ride on August 29th in Wyoming, and Brian claimed he had been camping by himself for multiple days, while Petito was at their van working on social media posts. In a series of videos posted on TikTok, Miranda Baker said she and her boyfriend picked up Brian that evening while he was hitchhiking in Coulter Bay, Wyoming. Brian told them he had been camping at a site outside the Teton National Park near the Snake River, she said. Once Brian found out Baker and her boyfriend were going to Jackson Hole instead of Jackson, he agitated, asked that the vehicle stop, and got up near the Jackson Dam, according to Baker. Baker said she spoke to law enforcement about the interaction. She spoke with the department before posting the videos on TikTok. Her account is plausible, it appears. Northport police spokesperson Josh Taylor said CNN has not been able to independently verify Baker's claim. Additionally, Norma Jean Devolick, a seasonal Wyoming resident, told CNN she picked up Brian not far from Jackson Lake Dam on August 29th and gave him a ride to the Spruce Creek dispersed camping area, where Petito remains were later found. According to Norma, Brian told her that he and his fiancée had a travel blog. She was in their van at the camping area working on the blog, and he had been hiking along the Snake River embankment for a few days. Norma said she later provided the FBI with that information. Norma said that when they arrived at the Spruce Creek, she dropped Brian off before the gate at the entrance of the camping area. She said she offered once or twice to take him farther, but he was insistent that he be dropped off at the entrance. Brian then offered her gas money, but she declined. Norma had said she had picked him up around 6:15 p.m., which was just a few minutes after Baker had said Brian had departed her vehicle. September 1st. Brian returns to the couple's Northport home, where his parents also live. According to the affidavit attached to a search warrant request, a license plate reader shows the vehicle exited Interstate 75 into Newport at 10:26 a.m. Eastern Time. It was later recovered by police at the home. It was processed and there was some material in there. September 6th, the Laundrie family goes to a campground about 75 miles away from their home in early September. Roberta Laundrie, Brian's Laundrie's mother, was checked in at a waterfront site at the Fort de Soto campground from September 6th through September 8th. So September 11th, after trying to get in touch with Gabby and not seeing any posts or stories, just any kind of information in that regards where Gabby and Brian may be, the family of Gabby believes that they have gone missing, both Brian and Gabby. And they also tried to communicate with Brian's family, but they don't pick up, no answer, no information regarding their whereabouts. So they take this to the police and report her missing to the Suffolk County in New York. Northport authorities go to Brian's home that night and ask to speak to him, but his family instantly hand the information through their attorney, which is very odd. September 16, in a letter read by the Petito's family attorney at a news briefing held by the police, the missing woman family begs for the Laundrie's family to help in the investigation. Please, if you know or your family have any decency left, please tell us where Gabby is located, Stafford says. Tell us if we are even looking in the right place. All we want is for Gabby to come home. Please help us make that happen. He says Petito's family reached out to the Laundrie's family earlier in the month for information on Petito's whereabouts, but his family refused to answer. We haven't been able to sleep or eat, and our lives are falling apart, the Petito family's letter adds. September 17. After several days of both Petito's family and police pleading with the Laundrie's family to cooperate in the investigation, Laundrie's family requests that the police come to their home, where they shared that they haven't seen Brian since September 14, according to Taylor, the police spokesperson. We've been trying all week to talk to his family, to talk to Brian, and now they called us here on Friday. We've gone to the home and they're saying now that they haven't seen their son. Taylor tells CNN, Chris Kumu, it is another twist in this story. The Laundrie fam's attorney tells CNN the whereabouts of Brian Laundrie are currently unknown. The FBI is currently at the Laundrie's residence removing property to assist in locating Brian. As of now, the FBI is looking for both Gabby and Brian. Local and federal authorities kick off a search for a 23-year-old man. In October, the Laundrie's family attorney told CNN that further communication with parents now believing that Brian left to hike on September 13, not September 14. The Laundrie's family were basing the date Brian left on the recollection of certain events, said the attorney on October 6. September 18. Northport police say authorities are conducting a search for Laundrie at the Carlton Reserve, a nature area with more than 80 miles of hiking trails in Venus, Florida. Roughly 50 law enforcement officers from local agency and the FBI are searching for Laundrie. Taylor, and the police spokesperson, says at a news conference, adding Laundrie has an enormous amount of pressure on him to provide answers to what's going on. Meanwhile, the FBI announces that the agency and its partners are also conducting ground surveys in a ground Teton National Park relevant to Petito's disappearance. The national park is where Petito is believed to have been before her last communication with her family, police have previously said. September 19. Human remains discovered in a Teton County are consistent with the description of Petito. Full forensic identification has not been completed to confirm 100% that we found Gabby, but her family has been notified of this discovery. September 20th, the parents of Brian Laundrie are questioned at their home by the FBI. Christopher and Roberta Laundrie are escorted from their home and returned after federal agents executed a search warrant, according to Taylor, the Northport police spokesperson. Authorities searched the home for hours. Police say that they exhausted search avenues at the nature reserve and the search area has shifted. September 21st, the Teton County coroner confirms that the human remains found on Sunday in Bridger Teton National Forest are those of Petito. The cause of death remains pending final autopsy results. September 23rd, while authorities continue their search for Laundrie at the Carlton Reserve, the FBI announces that the U.S. District Court of Wyoming issued a federal arrest warrant for him. The warrant was issued pursuant to a federal grand jury indictment for the use of unauthorized devices related to Laundrie's activity after Petito's death. While this warrant allows law enforcement to arrest Mr. Laundrie, The FBI and our partners across the country continue to investigate the facts and circumstances of Ms. Petito homicide. So, at the moment, and still, Brian is still considered a person of interest, not a prime suspect. And this has caused a lot of frustration between a lot of people and protesters who are at Brian's home, just wanting to know the truth and just wanting to just come out and stop kind of just being a coward. Back to the statement. We urge individuals with knowledge of Mr. Laundrie's role in this matter or his current whereabouts to contact the FBI. Laundrie is suspected of using a debit card and PIN for accounts that do not belong to him for charges of more than $1,000, sometime between August 30th and September 1st, which is also the timeline of where Gabby had gone missing. October 12th. After a detailed investigation by forensic pathologists, anthropologists, and local law enforcement, with the assistance from the FBI, Petito's cause of death was determined to be strangulation. By the Wyoming law, no other information apart from the manner and cause of death will be released about the autopsy, Lou says a virtual news conference. By the Wyoming law, no other information apart from manner and cause of death will be released. The coroner says that Petito's body was outside in the wilderness for about 3 to 4 weeks before being found. Brian remains missing. Authorities have not connected him to Petito's death. As we said, he is only a person of interest, not a prime of suspect. So a lot of the information has been updated, as we know that her cause of death was just released this week, but we also know that a close friend of Gabby has said that Gabby and Brian never lived in Brian's home. That in fact Brian's parents purchased a condo for him and Gabby to live in. So that is definitely something that is very interesting and that the FBI is taking into consideration and looking into. But looking back at our timeline, Gabby was last seen on August 27 at a Tex-Mex restaurant in Wyoming at around 1 p.m. or so, which brings her death date closer to August 28th to the 29th. And it makes sense because Brian was initially believed to come back on August 30th to September 1st in Florida. Another information that has been updated in the past 2 weeks is Brian's father had participated on one search on October 7th, where an area where a lot of enforcement has believed Brian is staying or secretly hiding at. But after that, Brian's father did not participate anymore. He just participated for that day and said nothing much more about it. At this point of the video, I am going to include it because this is still an ongoing investigation and a lot of information is being said but not been confirmed. So I will most likely be doing a part 2 to this case as soon as I hear more. I know this was a lot of information to process and there's just so much more, but I would like to know, especially knowing more about the theories of what could have happened, especially now that the autopsy has been revealed. I will keep updated with both cases as they're both very interesting and just very heartbreaking. Thank you for joining me in today's video, and I will see you all very, very soon.